Hello everyone, this is Saurabh Sharma. Welcome to Vijayatha IAS Academy. Let's start with the current affairs session of 11th of January 2022. In the series, we have one PT related topic that we need to cover is Labour Bureau launches 5 All India surveys. We need to know about that, what all these surveys are. First, the Union Minister for Labour and Employment released a report of second quarter of Quarterly Employment Survey, a part of All India Quarterly Establishment Based Employment Survey, that is AKES. The Labour Bureau, a wing under Ministry of Labour Affairs, has recently been tasked with 5 major All India surveys by Government of India. The 5 surveys are All India Survey of Migrant Workers, Domestic Workers, Employment Generated in Transport Sector, All India Survey of Employment Generated by Professionals, All India Quarterly Establishment Based Employment Survey. Establishment Based Employment Survey. Now, what is this AKES? AKES seeks to provide frequent estimates of employment, vacancies, training, and other related parameters in both organized and unorganized segments of 9 major sectors. Here the twist could be that one sector is mentioned and then it will be followed by only, which is wrong. And this AKES contributes, or like it is surveying 9 sectors of economy. What are those 9 sectors? The 9 sectors are construction, trade, transport, education, health, accommodation, restaurant, IT BPO, and financial services. These are the 9 sectors. Now, AFIS, the Area Frame Establishment Survey, is one component of AKES which assesses employment scenarios in the unorganized segment of 9 selected non-farm sector establishments having less than 10 employees. So this Area Frame Establishment Survey is a component which assesses employment scenario in the unorganized sector. So what is the difference here? That AKES talks about both organized as well as unorganized, whereas the AFIS only talks about unorganized employment conditions. The other component of AKES is Quarterly Employment Survey, which assesses employment scenario in 9 organized farm, non-farm sector establishments having 10 or more employees. Now, the second is we have to cover today is Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, that is 3.0. Year-end review of Ministry of Skills Development and Entrepreneurship. Analysis. The Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, that is MSDE, has launched the third phase of its flagship scheme, that is Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana PMKVY 3.0 in January 2021. The prime objective of PMKVY are create an ecosystem for the youth to make informed choices on the available skilling avenues, because India is large pool of demographic dividend, but the problem with this dividend is that it doesn't have skills, proper training, the monetary availability or credit facilities. Even if there are training or there is training available with them, it is generally not certified. That means they cannot emigrate. There are 2 words, that is immigrate and emigrate. Emigrate means going out and immigrate means coming in. This is the 2 components. So the youth is having the energy, the time, the capacity and everything, but the desired skills, if it is not there, then youth energy will not be organized and channelized. Therefore, this PMKVY was launched. Now, just a second, let me just make some space here so that you can actually see it through properly. Provide support to youth for skill training and certification. This is what we have talked about now. promote sustainable skill centers for greater participation of private sector, because public sector undertakings, they cannot provide the training necessary and skills to the large pool available we have in the country. So therefore private sector involvement is absolutely important here, and benefits 8 lakh youth across the country. Now, have you ever thought that why this PMKVY was launched? Do we need to absorb this much of youth availability in the domestic sector only? And is our domestic sector capable enough to provide employment, meaningful employment to all the youth in the country? No, it is not possible. We have to make our youth capable and efficient, so that the countries in the world where birth rate is declining, that means the base of the age pyramid or human demographic pyramid is shrinking. For example, this is India's. At the same time, the Japanese base is somehow look like this. For example, if this is the birth rate, this is the sustainability rate. And they are the old age people. But in between, in middle, the availability of youth is very limited or either shrinking. So when the country is developed, the generation is growing old, the new birth rates is declining or shrinking, then how the country will sustain its economy? Who will work in the country? Now, when everything is being mechanized or robotized, like in the developed countries like Japan, so there we need a skillful youth force to work on those machines, to work for those machines, to operate those machines, because with the increasing age, the energy is going down. Doesn't matter, the experience remains with you, but to work on those machines, along with those machines, you need the young blood, the energetic people, the youth, so that youth actually can be supplied by the country like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, or South Asian nations. But talking about India, India can actually provide the largest pool, because we Indians can learn foreign language easily. This is the God gift available to us. In this manner, we just have to provide our youth with the skills, training, confidence, and the other things required to contribute towards the countries where the birth rate is shrinking. The upper base, the upper part of the pyramid is actually broadening, and where the people are getting older, but they need the necessary important skills in the form of youth to work for them, to assist them. So this is why this scheme is important in this context. Now, the next is India Skills. The India Skills, the country's biggest skill competition, offers a platform to young people to showcase their talent at national and international levels both. This competition is held every 2 years with the support of state governments and industry. The National Competition of India Skills 2021, organized by the NSDC, that is National Skill Development Corporation, the nodal agency for skill and entrepreneurship development, working under the guidance of the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, are being held in January. You just don't have to mug up the words given under these schemes. You just have to keep the name of the schemes in the mind, that what is the scheme we have and how the scheme is contributing. So in this PMKVY, as a broader framework, or National Skill Development Corporation, let's say, is also organizing an India Skill named competition that actually brings youth on a platform where youth can show the talent, their training, their skills, their innovative ideas, so that to be showcased at international and national level. In this way, actually, they can attract fundings, they can attract the necessary training from the international fraternity or from the international market, and that can actually create further employment in the country. So this is the basic idea here. Now, another scheme is skill acquisition and knowledge awareness for livelihood promotion, that is Sankalp. When such names are given, give focus that you actually are knowing the names of the skills that are actually given in the form of short forms. Now, Sankalp. It is a centrally sponsored scheme of MSDE, medium and small development enterprises, loan assisted by the World Bank. Loan assisted by World Bank. So that could be a PT question, that who provides loan for Sankalp? Or probably the statement could be that the Sankalp scheme in India is financed by ADB or AIIB, Asia Infrastructure Bank, but no, this is World Bank. The objective of Sankalp, let's find out the objective in the name itself. Skills acquisition and knowledge awareness for livelihood promotion. That means you are making the youth capable and competent so that they can actually take care of their livelihood arrangements, and that can be further developed. The objective of Sankalp are to strengthen the short-term skill ecosystem and to address key issues of skilling in the country. So short-term skill ecosystem, because in India is blessed that some skills are actually transferred from generation to generation. Generation to generation. So here we are actually strengthening those skills that are being transferred from one generation to another generation, that can be actually formalized, polished, and can be brought or showcased to the world. Simple. These objectives are met through three key results areas named as institutional strengthening at national, state and district level, quality improvement of skill development programs, inclusion of marginalized population in skill development programs. This is actually showing the inclusivity of scheme. Also focused on rural sector or rural areas, especially in unorganized sectors, both in urban and rural areas. Marginalized population. Now, Jan Shikshan Sansthan. The names are a little complicated, I'm sorry, but you have to bear with it. Thanks to the present government. Jan Shikshan Sansthan, formerly known as Shramik Vidyapeeth, provide vocational skills to non-literates as well as school dropouts by identifying skills that have a market in the region of their establishment. Sometimes you might have seen that some people are making cookies on road, and they can do it so well, or even if they are actually involved in the catering business of some or the other kind. So how we can give a formalized certificate to them? How can we introduce quality to their productions or to the products they are making actually? And how can we ensure that the digitally enabled system of payment, transactions and whatsoever can be given to them, so that they are also taking benefits of banking system, they are also taking benefits of regularization with their transaction, so that they can actually ask for a willful claim, they can ask for the legal framework under which they can get the formalized credit facility available to them by the formal credit institutions in the country. Because these people who are working at the lower level, who are coming from the marginalized section, who are working in the vulnerable situations or especially in the unorganized sectors, they are only turning for their financial needs to the informal credit systems of the country. For example, money lenders, for example, their relatives, for example, their knowns. But generally the money is not given free. It is charged a hefty amount of interest. Sometimes there are many reports given by RBI and other institutions like NABARD who are working for the rural development. They say that sometimes the money taken in the form of loan is repaid back in an year twice the amount the money was taken. In this manner, the person who was in the poverty and actually needed money, he still remains in the poverty even with more disastrous effect or catastrophic effect. So that means it creates a vicious circle. In this manner, actually people are losing their land because somehow the land was mortgaged. Either their assets, for example, any sort of gold or silver ornaments, if they had, sometimes their house papers are also leased or mortgaged. In this sense, actually the poverty, which is meant to be eradicated through through making the enabling and inclusive environment, through the well structured and functioning of these type of schemes, the person is deteriorated in the social position even worse than before, because they are not able to take benefit of the schemes what are being run by the government due to lack of awareness, availability, reaching, or the process was so complicated. So this has to be actually resolved. So this Jan Shikshan Sansthan is saying that neoliterate is an adult or an adolescent who did not or could not make use of the available educational opportunities on time due to whatsoever reason, and who at a later stage acquired the skills of literacy through formal or non-formal approaches, because the work is also an education. The only problem is that work which is done in unorganized sector is not identified as education. It is just only identified as experience, but with no certification. With no certification or appreciation. So in this manner, Government of India is actually making the availability of such schemes so that these people can also take benefit out of it, and they are not only called as literates, illiterates because they did not go to school. Rather, they should be called as literates because they are producing some good amount of work that is actually contributing towards the local economy and in the GDP as whole. Now, the scheme is being implemented with public and private partnerships since last 5 decades for the upliftment of women, ST, SC, OBC and minority, all these are, and rural urban slums known as vulnerable category. JSS are providing vocational training at doorstep of the beneficiary in the unreached areas. Important, the scheme of Jan Shikshan Sansthan has been transferred from Ministry of Human Resource Development to Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship for better implementation. Implementation and coordination. Now, target group: socio-economically backward and educationally disadvantaged groups of rural and urban population. Main target includes non-literate, neoliterates, person education up to 8th standard, school dropouts in the age of 15 to 35 years, and priority given to women, SC, ST, OBC and minorities in rural and urban areas. Now, World Youth Skills Day, sometimes these days are also asked, December 14, the UN General Assembly adopted a resolution declaring 15th July as World Youth Skills Day. The theme for 2020 World Youth Skills Day is Skills for a Resilient Youth. So this World Youth Skills Day is celebrated on every year on 15th of July. Now, Incheon Declaration. Just a second. What is this Incheon Declaration? It talks about Education 2030 is fully captured by Sustainable Development Goal 4, ensure inclusive and equitable quality education, promote lifelong learning opportunities. So this is also under SDG. SDG period is 2015 to 2030. So here, Sustainable Development Goal number 4, that talks about the education which is captured as ensure inclusive and equitable quality education. So that means this SDG 4 is talking about the education. That education, as I said, is not only going to school, it is also knowing about the work you are doing and how qualitatively you are doing it. So this is all about some 2-3 schemes, because you have to sometimes include these schemes while framing your answer, while writing the economic section, with economy paper, GS number 3. Now, interstate river water disputes, important. Of late, in my past videos, let's say previous video or previous to previous video, we have been talking about the water disputes, quality of water, how new developments in the field of water actually we can do, and what are the states and like what are the disputes involved in the country where states are fighting, and because India has rivers, and rivers are crossing from one state to another, and thereby if the state as the who is having the upper stream of the river, actually they are starting a construction of any dam, reservoir, then the state at the lower stream or the downstream, actually they say, and they start putting an allegation that the water flow is being disturbed, and this action is politically motivated, it is not good for the environmental factor and whatsoever, and in this manner the river becomes disputed between the states, and in this manner so many developmental projects, aspirations and aspects cannot be fulfilled. So in this manner, this Interstate River Water Disputes Amendment Bill 2019 actually came into limelight. Justices D.Y. Chandrachud and A.S. Bopanna of the Supreme Court rescued themselves from hearing a dispute among the states of Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka on the allocation of the Krishna River water. Justice Chandrachud is from Maharashtra and Justice Bopanna hails from Karnataka. Now, see, quite simple to understand that if one judge who is coming from which state has given such a verdict which is not favoring the state he's coming from, that will be started putting as a social allegation on the person, and in this manner judges are actually moving from it, going away from these type of disputes, because these disputes are not new. They have been continuous in the debates and the domain of public discussions, and claimed as the river dispute since very long. So this shows that how this interstate river water dispute mechanism overall structure is so lethargic, and where many issues are lying which are need to be rectified. Now, Interstate River Water Disputes Amendment Bill 2019 introduced on the basis of Sarkaria Commission's report. Sarkaria Commission actually talked about the center state relations, let's say. And very important reference we generally quote in the exam or while study center state relation is the role of governor. How the governor role must be utilized and understood in the light of constitutional aspirations and objectives, so that the federal structure of the country is working ideally. This is Sarkaria Commissions actually spoke about. In this manner, they also considered that this interstate river water dispute is somehow becoming a root cause and fundamental cause of disturbing the federal structure of the country, where center and state must work in their specified domains. Their functions should not overlap. Thereby, the ideal system of federal structure of the country can benefit or can give benefits to the people or citizens. Now, this amendment Bill 2019 seeks to amend the Interstate River Water Disputes Act 1956 to streamline the adjudication of interstate river water disputes. Adjudication, ADR mechanism. That means that these disputes are resolved amicably in the shortest possible period of time without lying as a file to the central government or with the high courts or supreme courts for that matter, or other tribunals. So this adjudication needs to be strengthened and should be made such a strong mechanism where the scope of laxity is minimized and the verdict they are coming up with are also abided by, understood, and also respected by the member parties. Now, the bill binds the center to set up dispute resolution committee, that there will be a DRC, dispute resolution committee, to amicably resolve the issue related to interstate water disputes by negotiations in 1 year. negotiations and amicably. These two words are the gist of this bill. If that amicably means mutually understandable, mutually respected and accepted. If the DRC cannot settle the dispute, the center must refer it to the interstate tribunal within 3 months. Actually, what is the present structure is that straight away the dispute goes to the tribunal. But tribunals are proven as not so efficient while clearing out or giving the verdicts. Because sometimes the verdict of the tribunal is also challenged to the higher institution or judicial institutions like High Court or Supreme Court for that matter. But here, to make the process easier, this dispute resolution committee will be the first step of challenging it, and that should be the verdict must come out in 1 year. A key feature of the bill is the constitution of a single tribunal with different benches and the setting of strict timelines. This is important because sometimes so many interstate water disputes in the country are going on for more than 3 decades. If enacted, it would make it mandatory for the center to constitute a tribunal on state's request or suo motu. This suo motu should be implemented in letter and spirit, because sometimes the suo motu is generally not directly resembling but shows that the suo motu actions are politically motivated. Politically motivated. On state's request, there is also a loop that if one state is having the same government as what ruling in the center, and the another or the adjacent one is the one which is in the opposition, here also the politically motivated actions can be taken up. So here the one wiser solution could be that the tribunal or this dispute resolution committee can analyze the data, can discuss it with the stakeholders, and take the cognizance or take the action on its own with the legal valid justifications of facts, reasons, and by putting the issue in the public domain with all the actions taken over it, and keeping the state government and central government away from such natured issues, so that the issues are not complicated and ultimately the citizens of the state and country are not suffered. Then, as per the current provisions of the 1956 Act, a tribunal can be formed after state government approaches the union government with such a request and the center is convinced of the need to form the tribunal. This need shows discretion. Discretion. For example, states like Kerala, Tamil Nadu, always under the different set of government structure, and when they are approaching central government, the center will try to delay the process. Let's say in some situations it has been observed. So this kind of problems and issue are we are observing in the current structure. That is why this amendment bill has been brought up. Now, benches will be set up under the single tribunal. A retired Supreme Court judge will head the tribunal. There will be benches formed as and when required. The benches though will be wound up once a dispute is resolved. So that means it is basically the setup will come up when the dispute is arisen or arose, and they will be actually stop functioning when the dispute is resolved. So hence they are basically known as ad hoc arrangement tribunals. As and when required and the purpose is over, then they are actually gone. The tribunal will be mandated to deliver final award in 2 years, which may be extended by another year, and it is proposed that whenever it gives order, the verdict gets notified automatically without any political interference. Because currently all the awards, all the judgments are generally not taken into consideration by the parliament, and they are being discussed in the parliament, and they are being thought with different sets of mechanisms. So it actually further delays the process, and that weakens the federal structure of the country. If the matter is again referred to the tribunal by a state for further consideration, the tribunal must submit its report to the central government within a period of 6 months. Because it is also required, because the voice of states is important. Center should not impose or should not enforce their own ideology or their own understanding of the states, because water is a state subject. Water is state subject, and interstate water is unionless subject. So this is why if one state is not satisfied, then the role of central government comes in. The decision of the bench of the tribunal will be final and binding on the parties involved in the dispute. So the bill prescribes timelines. While a permanent tribunal with multiple benches is proposed be set up after dissolving all existing tribunals. The tribunal would be appointed on the recommendation of a selection committee comprising of the PM, Chief Justice of India, and ministers from the Law and Justice and Jal Shakti ministers. This tribunal should also have the say of states. This is what I feel. Because when the tribunals are related to states, then states' involvement or taking them on board can also be considered. But even after permanent tribunal is established, the states would not have the right to approach the DRC or the tribunal directly, because the permanent tribunal is established. Since the selection committee would have the Prime Minister and 2 union ministers besides the Chief Justice of India, the role of the judiciary substantially reduced, because more or less it has become an executive tribunal. Executive tribunal. Here the politically motivated actions taking scope is still remain in function. That is not actually taken up. Now, the constitution puts water as subject under the state list. Interstate rivers and river valleys falls under the union list. This is what we said. Parliament can make law, but with the objective to expedite dispute resolution, not about the water utilization or awarding of the water division. Article 262(1) bars the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court, but matters are still being taken there on legal, jurisdictional, environmental and constitutional issues, because this interstate water dispute doesn't fall under the jurisdiction of Supreme Court under Article 262(1). Still, with different references, it is actually taken up by the Supreme Court. This is also important for your PT, that they are not in the direct jurisdiction of the or original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. Major river water disputes and the states involved therein, that is very important, because sometimes these factual questions are also asked. Krishna River, it has members disputes Karnataka, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh and Maharashtra, not Chhattisgarh, because Chhattisgarh has no direct role with the uses of water of Krishna. Mahanadi, Odisha and Chhattisgarh, it is actually coming from Chhattisgarh and discharging water throughout Odisha. Mahadai and Mandovi, Mahadai, Goa, Karnataka and Maharashtra, important. Ravi and Beas, Punjab, Haryana and Rajasthan. Vamsadhara, it is Vamsadhara, M. Andhra Pradesh and Odisha. Kaveri, most disputed in the country. Most disputed in the country. Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Kerala and Puducherry. Tungabhadra, Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh. Godavari, Andhra Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Odisha and Karnataka, not Telangana. Important. Narmada, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra and Rajasthan. Important. Periyar, Kerala and Tamil Nadu. Now, some important facts about Krishna River. There you can see in the map that Krishna is actually start flowing from Maharashtra. and from here it falls into Karnataka, and then it is also going through the Telangana region, and then in this Andhra region, coastal Andhra, it is discharging its water near Machilipatnam in the Krishna River basin. The Krishna is an east flowing river. Always remember, this part is known as east, this is west, this is north, and this is south. So this is an eastern flowing river, rises near the town of Mahabaleshwar in Maharashtra in the western Ghats, not far from the coast of Arabian Sea, and passes through Karnataka, Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. Important. The Krishna River lies on the border of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana River, is one of India's longest rivers. It has a total course of about 800 miles, that is 1290 kilometers. Generally 1 mile is equal to 1.6 kilometers approximately. The Krishna has a large and highly fertile delta, continuous with that of Godavari River to the northeast. This area is talking about the fertile delta region. Now, it is not navigable because it is flowing through the Deccan region part, and this part has plateaus. So there are rapids and cataracts, these are forms of waterfalls, will be observed in this area. Therefore, the navigability is negligible. Navigable means that you can actually make the waterways in the rivers. Because it is fed by seasonal monsoon rains, it is not just fed by it is not the only river which is fed by a seasonal monsoon rain. Almost all the rivers of South India, majorly Godavari, Krishna, Kaveri, or all are seasonal rains. Seasonal rains means they start flowing heavily and voluminous water present in the rivers only during the southwest monsoon period, because they do not have any permanent source of water discharging at the source. And whereas on the other hand, Himalayan rivers are generally considered as the all-time rivers, perennial in nature, because they are generally fed by the melting of snow in the summers. They are also fed by the western disturbances, reverses, rain system during the winters, and that's how the permanent annual continuation of the water in the rivers is ensured in the Himalayan region. The river flow undergoes great fluctuation during the year, limiting its usefulness for irrigation. Fluctuation is monsoon come and the water gets volume, so that's how. And again, when the water is limited and there's still dispute, like so many states are fighting for their ideal share of water, so that is actually conflicting. And since the rivers in the South India are seasonal in nature, or they are monsoon fed, rain fed rivers, so this is why the volume of the water is generally compromised, and therefore it is disputed among the members who are sharing the water. The two largest tributaries are the Bhima and Tungabhadra rivers. This Tungabhadra and Bhima is generally the two largest tributaries are which are bringing water from somewhere but discharging in the mainstream river. So let's say this is Bhima and here this is Tungabhadra. So they are actually discharging water, so they are known as tributaries, whereas once the water is taken away by any stream, it is known as distributary. Now, why is the oldest city on the river banks of Krishna in Satara district of Maharashtra? Why? W-A-I. The biggest city on the banks of the river in Maharashtra is Sangli, and at the same time the biggest city on the banks of the river in Andhra Pradesh is Vijayawada. Sri Sailam and Nagarjuna Sagar are located on Krishna River, and the water is distributed between the two states of Telangana and Andhra Pradesh via these hydro projects. The Sri Sailam Dam is constructed across the Krishna River in Kurnool district, Andhra Pradesh, and is the second largest capacity working hydroelectric station in the country. The dam was constructed in a deep gorge. Gorge are valley. These are known as gorges. These are mountains or plateau. So these, sometimes we see that the valleys are V-shaped, then U-shaped, I-shaped. So these are gorges. The dam was constructed in a deep gorge in the Nalamalla Hills in Andhra Pradesh. Some important lengths of the river, you can just take a look over here. And the river section actually forms important part of your syllabus for prelims and mains as well, because many aspects are related to disaster, water disputes, water sharing, governance, water structure, hydroelectric and energy atmosphere in the country, and the issues of environment are directly and indirectly associated with these river systems and areas, and also the aquatic animals and all those animals and like who are given the different form of protection under IUC and red list and all. So this is important from many angles, so thereby all the river system in the country must be thoroughly known to you on tips. The next topic we have is mediation bill. Mediation. What is mediation? Mediation is basically India has alternate dispute resolution mechanism. Why this alternative dispute or alternate dispute resolution mechanism we need, that is known as ADR. ADR is needed because if all the cases are directly going to the session courts, high courts, district courts or supreme courts, then courts are so overburdened with their work that courts cannot actually look into the cases qualitatively. Even if they are looking into the cases qualitatively, then all the cases will be required hundreds of years to complete, and the completion will never come because according to law ministry data, and sometimes Supreme Court judges have also quoted, and even Chief Justice of India, ex-Chief Justices of India have also said in many conventions and many convocations that the speed and the volume of cases every day registered in Indian courts is highly voluminous in nature, and if on some certain date we stop accepting any new cases in the country in all the courts, then the entire courts will take more than 300 years to complete the number of cases courts are already burdened with, provided that no new case is registered in the courts nowadays. If this is the matter that no new cases are coming up and you are already taking 300 long years to finish off all the cases presently in the country, and every day the number of cases being filed in the country is massive, because the law ministry also takes, or the courts and high courts administration department is also takes so long time that they are not even sure that how many cases are being filed every day. So that is why they need time. So you can see that Indian judiciary structure is so overburdened. Therefore, courts want and the system wants that there should be some alternative dispute resolution mechanism where courts' door are not knocked by all Tom, Dicks and Harrys, that they want courts intervention only. The ADR should work in this sense only, and the quality should be maintained. Therefore, this is drafted in a bill, and now ADR has mechanisms like mediation, conciliation, and arbitration. Mediation, conciliation, reconciliation, and arbitration. So in this way, we need to settle, or we are trying to settle the disputes without letting them going into the courts, or without letting those cases consuming most of the important times of the courts. Now, what is this mediation? Mediation is a form of alternative dispute resolution where parties attempt to settle their dispute outside courts with the assistance of an independent third person, that is known as mediator. The bill seeks to promote mediation, including online mediation as well. Now, in case of civil or commercial disputes, a person must try to settle the dispute by mediation before approaching any court or certain tribunals as notified. So that will save upon the times of the court. Even if the parties fail to reach a settlement through pre-litigation mediation, the court or tribunal may at any stage of the proceedings refer the parties to mediation if they request for the same. Again, if the parties are willing to settle the process, then why the court will have any objection? So court will be happy to send them in the mediation, because ultimately court has to resolve the issue as soon as possible because they are already overburdened. The bill will not only apply to mediation proceedings conducted in India, but also there is an international mediation, that is mediation related to a commercial dispute where at least one party is a foreign government, a foreign national resident, or an entity with its place of business outside India. If the central or state government is a party, the bill will only apply to commercial disputes and other disputes as notified by such government. Disputes not fit for mediation includes, though these issues cannot go to mediation. Number one is relating to claims against minors or persons of unsound minds, because they are vulnerable people. Involving prosecution of criminal offenses cannot go, only civil nature can go there. Affecting the rights of third parties. Relating to levy or collection of taxes. So this finance nature, criminal nature, third parties involvement, and related to minors and other vulnerable people, they cannot go to mediation because they need direct intervention of the court by considering all the facts and evidences carefully. Mediation proceedings will be confidential, of course. It remains. A party may withdraw from mediation after the first two mediation sessions. The mediation process must be completed within 180 days even if the parties fail to arrive at an agreement, which may be extended by another 180 days by the parties. So this time frame will save mediation centers to becoming a new form of court, where tariq pe tariq and tariq pe tariq issues is generally resolved. This is the whole objective here. Now, mediators only assess the parties to settle their dispute and cannot impose a settlement. They only listen to it, they write it down, and they have the legal authorities that they are allowed to get it done, and the awards or that the mediation outcome will have the same legal sanctity. But though that can be challenged in the court. Mediators may be appointed by the parties by agreement. A mediation service provider and institution administering mediation with prior authorization. The central government will establish the Mediation Council of India to perform the following functions: registration of mediators like bar councils and medical councils, recognizing mediation service providers and mediation institutes, providing training, education and certification of mediators. Highly important, so that India has the pool of mediators, qualified mediators who are actually well read, well trained and well educated, and based on the certification provided to them on national and international standards, and their services can also be availed by the third parties beyond the national borders. Agreements resulting from mediation will be final, binding and enforceable in the same manner as court judgments, except agreements arrived at after community mediation. Mediated settlement agreements besides those arrived at in court referred mediation or by Lok Adalat or permanent Lok Adalat may be challenged only on the grounds of fraud, corruption, impersonation relating to disputes not fit for mediation. So it is all talking about the forceful mediation, forceful or fabricated mediations. Now, community mediation may be attempted to resolve disputes likely to affect the peace and harmony amongst residents of a locality. Community mediation. This community mediation means that where the number of parties are more than two or even more than that. So this mediation is highly important, and this structure needs to be easily framed, should be made available to all the parties, should be available in the public domain, that people know about that, because the major problem here is the awareness. Because if I am a common man, and if I do not understand the functioning of this legal system in the country, then my only step of resolution of my dispute is the court, and I'll ultimately file the case in the court. And after it is going to the court suggests that if you want, both the parties are willing to come to an agreement, then you can go to the mediation centers, and there the court will actually supervise it. But here, if I know it already, then both the parties can try to arrive at conclusion, because no one wants to go to court actually in most of the cases, those cases that are of civil nature. So here the awareness is also important, along with the reforms in the structure. Now, next topic is gateway to hell. Thankfully, in India, we have one new gateway to hell. No, sorry, not India, in the world. So the name speaks differently, the gateway to hell. This article is from Indian Express. Turkmenistan has ordered experts to find a way to extinguish a fire in a huge natural gas crater. What are craters? Sometimes, let's say, there's one mountain and it had seen the lava eruption. Volcanic eruption. And when the eruption was there, let's say this top canopy of the mountain was actually blown away. And now the mountain has got the structures like this. This depression, this natural depression, is known as crater, because the top part or the canopy was blown away by the powerful forces of eruption. This was blown away by the powerful forces of eruption. Hence, this depression, low-lying depression, is actually known as crater. And if there was no further eruption after the first eruption or the initial eruptions, due to rain and other factors that might have contributed to the volume of water in this crater, they are becoming the crater lakes. And the world's highest crater lake is Lake Titicaca. Titicaca. It is in the South American mountains chain, in the Andes region. Now, the Darwaza gas crater, also known as the gateway to hell. So it is in the Turkmenistan Darwaza gas crater. So here natural gas might be coming up, and therefore this is actually giving an ignition to the already lying region, and it is a vulnerable hotspot for the volcanic eruptions. The crater is located in the Karakum desert. Turkmenistan has been at the center of methane leakages. Important, because Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, they are major regions of natural gas reserves. The crater has become a significant tourist attraction in the country and also a source of methane leakages. Turkmenistan is one of the 5 Caspian Sea littoral countries: Azerbaijan, Iran, Kazakhstan, Russia, and Turkmenistan. And the countries that are surrounding the Caspian Sea are known as Tariq. Here the names suggest Tajikistan, Azerbaijan, Russia, Iran, and Kazakhstan. Now, an area with large volume of oil and natural gas reserves. Methane is the primary contributor to the formation of ground level ozone, a hazardous air pollutant and greenhouse gas. So methane is a greenhouse gas. Hence, its continuous eruption from that region is not good for environment as well. It is adding to the greenhouse gases. Now, methane is also a powerful greenhouse gas. Over a 20 period, it is 80 times more potent at warming than carbon dioxide. So it is even disastrous than carbon dioxide, methane. CH4, I guess. This is what we call as methane. The desert is crossed by the second largest irrigation canal in the world, that is Karakum Canal. What desert? The Karakoram Desert, which brings water from Amu Darya to southern regions of the desert, which is the Karakoram Canal. Now, if we are talking about Turkmenistan, we also should have the reference of Tapi pipeline, which is very important for India for ensuring the regular supply of natural gas to the country, but the project is not finishing up, or it is not coming to the completion, because the members who are involved in this Tapi pipeline project are vulnerable, notorious, and the stability of political system in the countries is absolutely at stake. Let's just see that what is the route of this Tapi pipeline. This Tapi means T for Turkmenistan, A for Afghanistan, P for Pakistan, and I for India. So when you see, when there are A and P in today's date, Afghanistan and Pakistan, there is the issue of Taliban now. Taliban has taken over the government, and Pakistan is no need to say anything. What sort of a relationship these two countries or neighboring lands are sharing. Now, Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India is a proposed natural gas pipeline to be developed by Asian Development Bank, PT. It is proposed to run from the Galkanish field in Turkmenistan to Fazilka in Punjab. So this Tapi project terminates at Fazilka, Punjab. Fazilka near Bhatinda area, and it is the border region of India, western sector. Now, in a nutshell, if I just try to tell you that why the project is in halt. The project is in halt because if you see that the nature of countries who are involved in this project, they are poor countries. They are not able to complete their share, the share of their pipelines on time. Even if India is helping Afghanistan, then Pakistan financial issues is not letting them control the situation, and China do not want to help Pakistan in this manner because it is ultimately going to benefit India. So that is why China is keeping herself away. Now the issue of political instability, security issues, and many other aspects are stopping many private players to go there and to invest their money. That is also another issue. The third is that there is no mutual discussion and concerns, that these people are not discussing it in a regular manner here. Then also the interest of United States of America in the natural gas reserves of Central Asia is also letting the project delay here. Now India is trying to enter and take the benefit of this area through the building of Chabahar port, but again the issue, the political alienation of Iran away from India. Of late we have seen that how Iran actually cancelled many projects being run by India in its land is also causing delays. So overall, the political instability, the financial developments, the financial contribution, and lack of private sector involvement in the project is ultimately delaying it. Otherwise, if all the stakeholders are seeing this project as financial viable and they are dedicatedly working for the completion of this project, then countries like Afghanistan and Pakistan can take the transit charges from countries like India and Turkmenistan. And India has already proposed it, that it can actually generate good amount of volume, good amount of employment in your countries, and other necessary opportunity for investment from your countries only. So you should focus on these channels. But when you have neighbors like Pakistan, and Pakistan has neighbors like Afghanistan, and there it is being ruled now, captured by people like Taliban, so you can expect that what sort of romantic relationship all these countries will be sharing when it comes to international relations. So this is why this project is not actually working well. Now 70th anniversary of the Rubber Pact. 70th anniversary of the Rubber Rice Pact. So when we are talking about this Rubber Rice Pact, here we can see that countries like China and Sri Lanka launched celebrations marking the 70th anniversary of the Rubber Rice Pact. So here the country involves are China and Sri Lanka. So according to the Ceylon-China Trade Agreement of 1952, there were specific commitments by Sri Lanka to purchase rice and for China to buy rubber. The values of goods were to balance. That means the balance of payments to be maintained. So this agreement was signed in 1952 between these two nations, and now it is completing the 70th anniversary, so you should have an idea that how this trade is going to reshape after 70 years and how it is working now, and what the things like India can actually see here. Now, the trade was based on barter exports and imports to balance every year. Only the outstanding balance at the end of the year was to be settled in foreign exchange. It continued for 30 years. Now, we can see that when you don't have to pay money from one country to another, and you can import the things you want and you can export what you have in extra, so that will bring the equations of two countries in a very positive manner. And this is why the Chinese investment in the country, the Chinese taking the resources of the country, like of Sri Lanka, building ports like Hambantota, and in this overall scenarios, how it is posing a threat to Indian influence in the Indian Sea, Indian Ocean and Arabian Sea region, or the meeting of Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal's region, where the India's tiny neighbor island nation Sri Lanka is present. And here India is not able to take the benefit fully from Sri Lanka, because there are issues that India's internals federal structure, like relations of India central government, Tamil Nadu state governments, is not fine, and most of the time Tamil Nadu fishermen are captured by Sri Lankan navies. And here the issue remains unresolved for many years, and the India's involvement in Sri Lanka for the eradication of the country from forces like LTTE actually never led the Tamilian support to the country, to the central government. And of late it is seen that all these issues, because like when the ex-prime minister of the country, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, was attacked in relation to this litte, and the central government is doing least or almost compromise efforts when it comes to the rescuing of fishermen and making our harbors safe from international influence, that is actually disturbing the situation. So in this manner, we can say that India's neighborhood must remain absolutely stable first, and India's internal relations with the states and strengthening of the federal structure is as important as building good relationships with the external nations. Because for example, because Delhi's central government, who is sitting at Delhi, if they are not in good terms with the state governments like West Bengal, Tripura, Meghalaya, Assam for that matter, then ultimately it is going to affect the India's relationship with the neighbor like Bangladesh in that region, then Pakistan in that region. We say that Khalistan as an instability factor is continuously working in Punjab. Then India has the biggest threat from the western sector where Punjab is lying, and adjacent to it is Pakistan. So that means the differences in the relationships between the center and state in the country is directly or indirectly affecting the entire and overall structure of India's foreign policies or foreign international relations, be it diplomatic or multilateral, with the neighborhoods, especially in South Asian region. So in this manner, we can see that India should contribute more positively and effectively when it comes to trade, when it comes to human rights, when it comes to development, when it comes to association through exchanges, ideas, investments, technology sharing, and many things with these countries like Sri Lanka, because we are trying to maintain good relationships with countries like Maldives. So why we are not able to sustain those relationships with Sri Lanka, who is an immediate neighbor to us? And if we are letting that opportunity to remain in those loops, then China dragon will ultimately come and overtake the opportunities that could be harnessed by India very well. So the India's stand towards countries like Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, or any other nation has to be balanced and should be framed according to the Chinese influence in those regions, and therefore we need supports of the states, and states must be boarded on board, and their discussions, their dialogues, their debates, and their mutual consensus must reflect in India's foreign policy for that matter. So that was all about the current affairs of 11th January. in this video. Hope you like the video. Thank you so much.